Hello everybody and welcome back. We've got somewhat of an exciting video for us today. We're going to be wrapping up the final portions of the externals on the engine. So by the time this video gets finished up today, we will be ready to get into the computer, start messing with the tune a little bit because we do have the bigger fuel injectors, and then starting it up for the first time. So that'll be the next video. This video, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be getting the intake manifold on. We are going to be running the new fuel lines. We got the Injector Dynamics 6 AN fittings. As you can see, I've got the top feed fuel injectors installed. The wiring harness is all soldered together. We've got a video that's going to be coming out here soon of where all of the coolant pipes and breather lines go, because we did see that there wasn't really a video out there on the Subaru Outback or the Legacy GT and as to how to do the dress-up kits, especially for those people like us who had the engine out of the vehicle when we bought it. So there was no way for us to know what went where without some crazy figuring things out. So we've got a new interstate battery that's going to be going in here. We'll have the intake manifold. We'll finish up hooking up where these hoses hook into the coolant tank and into the intake manifold itself. We'll do another once over of the engine just to make sure that everything is on it that we have to have on it, and then we'll be digging into it and doing the video to start the engine up. When we were putting some of the other hoses to the side to start to figure out how to do the rest of the breather lines and some of the coolant lines on top of the engine, we noticed that the Legacy GT version of the kit that we have was not lining up with this, and there were some extra hoses in there that didn't line up with this. So come to find out, the crossover pipe for the Legacy GT is a little different. So we spent a couple days now getting this ordered. This is the crossover pipe off of 2007 Legacy GT. You'll notice that right here in this area, that pipe is different. See, this one comes straight. This one curves down and has a short one. I actually have the hose that fits the curve. Same thing over here. You see this piece here on the Legacy GT comes up and over, and that's the hose that we have. Whereas the Outback XT, it comes straight up. All right, we got the new cross pipe on. You see it points off to the side now instead of straight up. So this piece here picked up for about 20 bucks at the Subaru dealership, so they're not really expensive at all. So I would recommend it if you're doing an Outback XT and you're getting the Legacy kit for it. It'll just save you a lot of time. 20 bucks really isn't that much. So Gideon has brought the fire extinguisher out just in case.
Safety.
Safety third.
I think it's actually safety second.
Maybe, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So part of getting one more piece of this vacuum line put together in the fueling system. One of the vacuum lines off of the middle of the engine actually goes into this line right here, which is a small return, air return for the fuel system.
Which there still is fuel in it.
It smells like fuel. There's no raw fuel in it.
Okay.
So what we're going to have to do is we're going to remove this smaller pipe from the assembly while retaining some of the connecting points so that we can at least have some sort of mounting retained for the fuel system.
So now it is done.
Yep, cut it down so it'll slip down where it needs to be, and we will be able to hook the fuel breather here, and then down here where it comes off of some of the vacuum lines.
That thing always makes everything on the table shake. Like, you can hear everything in here just shaking. That's the only thing you can hear.
All right, we've got our intake manifold here. We've got the new O-rings on the bottom of it. We dressed up the new vacuum tubes that we made. Got some of the vacuum hoses and coolant lines hooked up for the dress-up kit. Gideon's going to get the tape taken off of the throttle bodies. And then here's just a really quick, you see we already have the wiring harness on.
So it's actually getting pretty hard.
Yeah.
Sorry you twisted the camera.
Okay. All of our holes line up. We are ready to bolt this bad boy down. All right, we're getting the bolts torqued down on the intake manifold. We had to do some little maneuvering because the holes didn't line up on the, they were off by, you know, a millimeter or so, so they wouldn't line up without doing some pushing and shoving. So what we did is we loosened the bolts on the throttle bodies there, and Gideon is tightening up all the intake manifold bolts, and then we'll go back and retighten the throttle body bolts. So that we were able to get them on with no problem once we just took like a half a turn off of those bolts, so we'll just have to torque them back down. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. We're back for the next day. We got some work done, and what we've got here is we've got the intake manifold on. We've got the wiring harness hooked up to the back of it. We have the breather from the brake booster going down and hooked up. We also have the overflow tank hooked up. We've got all the new fuel lines put in, and I've got them zip tied in a way that will hopefully keep them out of the way and look halfway decent on it. You can see all of our connectors here. This front one was the hard one because the size of the new turbo inlet is considerably bigger than the old one. You can see there, they are significant difference in size. So finding the space and then getting the air box put in here, and then this coming off of the air box, I was having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out how to route that so that it wouldn't be in the way and so we wouldn't have things all jacked out of proportion. So I think we've got it where we need it right now. It's going along right here, and then down I've got it connected here, goes in behind the air pump, and then back into this rail here. So we got those ready. We got the short line, the returns, got everything ready to go in there. We're going to just be replacing these lines here with the pieces that came in the kit, putting the fittings, the 6AN fittings on them, and then we'll be plugging these in. So that'll get us to the fuel portion of it. We still had to do the fuel pump in the back of the car. We'll be digging into that today too. And basically just getting a couple other items in here. I want to get the fuel lines just finalized. We're going to be getting the inlet done. We're going to be getting the air filter and filter box hooked up to the inlet. We're going to be getting all these items taken off of here and getting them switched over to the new system. So we got quite a bit to go today. We also got the new interstate battery. That's all put in there. We're ready to hook that up at any point in time. And then we'll get the engine primed with the oil, and then we'll be ready to start it up. All right, one of the special parts that we needed to order, as you can see here, this is the stock inlet. You see, this is where the blow-off pipe hooks into it. You notice that on this one, the blow-off pipe is back further. This one's for a Legacy GT. Legacy GT has a little bit different pipe. So what we did is we went ahead and ordered one for a 2007 Legacy GT. You can see it's got this little L there compared to this one. So it comes back further, and that's how we're gonna accommodate the new inlet. All right, so one of the modifications that we're also putting on this engine is a Grim Speed style air oil separator. One of the things that does is it blocks off the tube that normally goes in this on the stock inlet pipe. So what we did is we took out the copper piece. What I did is just went to the hardware store and got a rubber stopper. So we're going to be putting that in there. Push it in there real good. And that should plug up that hole for us so we don't have to worry about what we're doing to it later on. All right, well, I've been having a hard time getting any good video shots done because my helpers seem to have disappeared. Apparently it's no fun when you're putting on coolant lines, breather lines, and vacuum lines. So just gonna give a quick overview of what we've gotten done thus far. We got the radiator in it now. We've got the tranny coolant lines are all in place now. We've got all the vacuum lines taken care of for the boost controllers and all that. We've got the fuel lines taken care of. We have the air oil separator installed now. So that wraps around the back here. I've got our blow-off valve pipe here ready to go. And we've got the connector for the intercooler ready to go. So it appears what we have left to do now is place the intercooler on it, wrap up a little bit on the front here with the alternator, coolant lines for the radiator. Then we're going to hook it up to the battery. We're going to yank that. We're going to do the fuse out of the box for the fuel pump so that we're not pumping any fuel up there yet. We're going to turn it over. This is going to be scary as heck. We're going to turn it over to try to prime the oil into the engine so that we can be ready when it's time to start it. So other than that, it's time to just start wrapping it up. All right, so we've got everything on the engine now. It's kind of exciting. We've got everything off the countertops and on the engine.
Besides for one thing, we still need to put the alternator on.
Yes, the alternator still needs to go on there. We've got our intercooler put in there. We've got that all set. It's amazing how much room you have back here now without all the heat shielding when you put a wrap on the turbo instead of having to use all the heat shielding. So we've got our air box all hooked up now, all of our tubing here. We do have to find a way of securing this here because it appears that this is a little busted in both places, so we'll figure out a way of getting that secured before we go driving around. We got all of our coolant lines and our overflow tanks and hoses and everything is all hooked up now. All we have left to do is to hook up the battery, and then we should be able to turn the engine over to at least get the engine primed. We got our Royal Purple engine break-in oil in it. So that's pretty much it for right now. We do have the fuel tank out of it, or not the fuel tank, but the fuel pump out of it. We're waiting for a new fuel pump to arrive in the mail. I ordered the wrong one, so it wasn't an exact fitment for the stock fuel pickup. So that should be here tomorrow, and we'll get that put in, but that shouldn't stop us from turning this thing over tonight so that we can actually prime all the parts in it.
There's no more room for me.
There's no more room for you. That noisy, rotten engine from the beginning.
That was me.
That's fixed. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna load up our radiator fluid. I'm gonna check all my power steering fluids and my brake fluids and all that kind of stuff.
And we still need to fill up the fluid here.
Yeah, the wiper fluid. That's not as important.
Yeah.
But we will definitely do that for driving.
We'll probably get that when we start driving and take this to the car wash.
Yeah, this definitely needs a car wash. What we'll probably end up doing is taking it to a detail shop and having them just do a real good buff job, because we did find some scratches that have arrived over the winter from having it in here when the kiddos have been rollerblading. You see we've got another different areas of dust and everything, so we need to get that taken care of.
I blame the cat for the scratches.
Yeah, good luck with that. So we're gonna go ahead and get everybody out here, and we're gonna turn this thing over for the first time just to see if it'll crank over. We're not gonna be trying to start it. We're just priming the oil in throughout the engine, and then we get the fuel pump tomorrow. We'll get that put in. I still had to pull the base map off of the car from the ECU and adjust our pulse width and our latency on the fuel injectors because we have the new fuel injectors. But I do have all that information from DeechWorks, so it shouldn't be too hard of a deal to adjust that. At least get us to an idle and hopefully be able to rev it between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM so that we can break the engine in correctly. But we'll see. I'll probably do a little video on some of the changes that we do with the ECU, if I can figure that out. Otherwise, we're gonna go grab everyone else and bring them out. I'm just so nervous about this whole thing.
Cool. It tells you which door is open. The whole point of
See, before we started this, he had hair.
and a couple more stuff, then it's ready.
Again,
Yes.
I'm missing the extension for this, the long piece for this.
The ring-a-ding? Found it.
No. It's too big. No, I'm not seeing any.
Dad found it.
No, that's too big. The butt is too big. Okay, that came out wrong.
What are you doing?
Just looking to see if the... Ooh.
What? Start. Oh, the fan's turned on.
You're still doing the papers.
Okay.
It will start up the dashboard.
Okay, so here's the anxiety-ridden part. We're going to be turning the car over just to prime it. We're not going to be starting it. We're just going to be priming the engine. So I'm just going to be turning it over until the oil light goes off in here until...
Roman?
Okay,
You got
it turned over. It didn't crunch or crinkle or something like that.
We didn't hear a kaboom.
All right,
We didn't hear poof.
that's good.
Well, we know why has two keys. One of them doesn't turn it on
Yeah,
all the way.
well, this one says bad key will not start vehicle used for door, which is funny because this one has the best teeth on it. This one's a torn up, chewed up teeth, and that turns the engine over. So we'll probably have to go to the dealership and see if they'll cut us a key based on the VIN number.
Okay, let's just wait to go to the dealership until we can get this running.
You better keep those keys with you.
So we finished up with the fuel pump. We got a new DeechWorks 265cc fuel pump in there now. We're gonna go ahead and get started on getting the seat put back in it. And then we're gonna put in the new wideband O2 sensor, and then it's just tune time. Then we'll get this thing going.
And you could see what we could have done in a different video that we've done so far.
Could have done like what?
Like with the old girl.
Different type of fuel pump.
Oh.
Yep. So we had to do a fuel pump in our Chevy Suburban, so he got to do a lot of that work.
It was fun, but it also was a pain.
It was a pain. Really stinky job. So we got this one done. There was a little bit of hiccups with it. Ended up having the wrong fuel pump for it to begin with. And so it took us a couple days to get that in here. And then when we were taking it out, the little tiny bolts for the ring, we ended up having 4 of them break off as we were undoing the bolts to take the fuel pump assembly out. Fortunately, they broke off about halfway up, so I still had enough thread to get a nut back on them when we put it back in. There was just one that was a little short that we weren't able to tighten down very well, but hopefully that won't cause any issues with vacuum. So I guess we'll see when we get it started up. If it throws the, I believe it's a P049 error for the venting on the fuel tank. So we're gonna go ahead and get the seat in and we'll be right back. It's been a couple days since our last video because we've gotten really busy around here, so just want to do a little wrap up. We are pretty much ready to get into the computer. There's just a couple small things that we're doing. I do have a AFR gauge that we're going to be putting in. It's the AEM that came with the Uego wideband. I'm going to try to do this in a way that is clean, doesn't require a whole bunch of soldering or anything. We were able to pick up these neat little deals.
And what is this?
This is the serial cable for plugging into this, which will hook into the wiring that we have from the O2 wideband.
So that one is under there.
Now we also got these hookups right here to hook into the power so that we can do a clean job of hooking them into the power that's needed to run the gauge. So there's a couple things there that we're going to be taking care of. We did take care of the wideband wiring here. We came up the driver's side over there. We got it all nicely put away. And then down here where we came through the grommet for the firewall, what I used there is some weather strip adhesive for automobiles.
And
which,
it actually kind of looks like tar.
it does. It looks really good in there. It sealed up really good, dried super fast. So basically what we have left here is nothing. We've got the belts on now. We've got the alternator in there. Everything is hooked up. Everything is lubricated. All the different fluids are at the levels that they need to be. I just need to throw the breather intake back on here for regular driving. But other than that, you know, we're pretty much done here. So we're going to end this video. The next video we're going to go into is going to be actually getting into the ECU and getting the car started for the very first time. So that is going to be super exciting to be able to wrap up this project. Thanks for watching, and as always,
subscribe and like and hit that notification.
There we go. So help us out a ton by subscribing to our channel. We'll see you next time.